Awesome. Well, it's wonderful to meet you. I'm really excited to chat.
For having me. So nice to meet you.
I love the show. It's really fun, and my daughter adores it. So this is awesome.
Oh, that's wonderful. You have to tell
Uh,
her I said,
yeah, I will. So you've done a lot of voice work, and this is your second season of the show. How do you kind of get into the frame of mind for your character? What's your process like for that?
so with Pandora, it's not really much of a process, just to be quite honest. I love that she has a childlike nature, and when I started playing Pandora, I was probably about 16 or 17. So I wasn't completely out of that space, completely out of that mind space, and I was doing a
Yep.
lot of I was still having a lot of fun with the characters that I was playing and still, kind of in that mindset. So it kind of just translated over into Pandora. But as far as like a vocal quality is concerned, she is a little younger than I am.
Mhm.
So her vocal print per se is a little more pinched and a little more clenched. And that also comes from being an animated horror comedy. Things are very intense and very high stakes most of the time. So, we're always yelling or, it's very, very, very tense. Um, so as far as developing Pandora and all those things, I just kind of tap into my childlike wonder and that sense of adventure. And I think that's something that's very fun for me with Pandora.
Without going into spoilers, how's the dynamic different for the family this season? Last season, like there was the giant driving family secret was kind of revealed.
Yeah, I think that season two kind of lends to the fact that sometimes it's not quite over when you think it is. And things aren't quite settled when you think that you've handled a problem. And I like the way that our writers and our team kind of expanded on the idea of, well, what if there are kind of some reminiscent in residual um issues that span from season 1 to season 2 that kind of carry over. So in this season, we deal with the family dynamic of kind of pivoting with our issues and taking a different approach on how to help dad per se without giving too much away.
That's wonderful. So you mentioned that your voice had to be a little bit different for this, or has to be a little bit different than you in real life, because it's a horror comedy. The character is younger. What's the recording process like for that? How do you record by yourself? Are you with the cast? What's up?
Yeah, so it's just me. I'm all by myself in the booth. And the producers are there as well, but as far as, like, castmates are concerned, we don't get the opportunity to record together, which, has its pros and cons. I would say the cons, of course, are I don't get to share energy with another actor. I don't know what their performance is going to lend itself to, and I kinda have to rely on the producers and the creators to say, "Hey, let's have you say the line just, slightly differently or like this," to kind of match, maybe Russ's timing or Sky's timing or, whoever it may be. Um, so we don't get the opportunity to record with each other, but the benefit of that is that you are surprised when you finally get to see the final product as far as, what everybody else did and even, bigger things like who was even cast, like, you just don't know. So there's a lot of surprises that come with that.
So outside of kind of your castmates' performances, has there been anything else that's kind of been surprising or really interesting to you in this show and kind of bringing it to life?
Yeah, I mean, I think that initially the visual of the show was something that really took me by surprise. Seeing it for the first time, I was like, "Wow." And that was really all I said, and they were like, "Do you like it?" I was like, "Yeah, I mean, it's beautiful. I've never seen anything like it." I don't recall there being a show that looked quite like the way that Curses does, and I think that's what makes our show so unique is that it's a fresh take on something that's very nostalgic. And I think that's something that opens up our show to different audiences. It opens up to people who grew up with the classic horror comic book feel, but also gives a different, fresh new take. So I think that one of my favorite things about animation in general is the surprise of what is it all gonna look like when it comes together?
Do you think, do you think there would ever be room for a live action Curses in the world?
1,000,000% be down. That, I mean, I don't know. I That's not been discussed, but I would 1000% be down. I think that our show has tons of potential for that. There's so many qualities of an Indiana Jones type, Tomb Raider type show or film that I would love to be explored.
It's so much fun. Is there like a favorite artifact or or something that, Pandora and family have tried to return that, you can share that you're looking forward to people seeing or even from season one?
In season 2, there's an episode where Pandora gets shrunk, right? She's really little. One of my favorite episodes because I grew up with those films. I grew up with Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, and I always wondered what it would be like to be really, really small, and I was always fascinated with exploring the world from a small person's perspective. I mean, I'm only 5'3", like, I kinda have but, on an extreme sense, I think that, that was one of my favorite episodes because Pandora was struggling really, really hard with surviving that episode and just making it out alive, and I feel like in real life, I would have some of the same issues. I feel like my dog would try to eat me.
That's awesome. So I know we're pretty close on time. Is there anything else you want to share or that you want people to know about the show or about, your work?
Yeah, absolutely. So Curses, I feel, is a very great way to introduce the horror genre to kids. I think it's a great gateway project, and it's a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful show to watch for Halloween. So I highly encourage families to watch it. Um, it's spooky, it's scary, but it's not too scary. So I hope that people enjoy Pandora as much as I do, and Curses as much as I do.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Much. So nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.